Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Arvada City Council meeting for today, September 2nd, 2025. I'll call upon Councilmember Rupert for a moment of the reflection and the pledge.
All right, if you join me for a moment of reflection. Thank you, and a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Simpson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon?
Here.
Councilmember Ambrose? Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer? Councilmember Mariana?
Here.
Councilmember Rupert?
Here.
I need a motion for the excusal of Councilmembers Ambrose and Pfeiffer.
Your Honor, I move that we excuse Council Members Ambrose and Pfeiffer from this evening's meeting.
All right. All votes are cast. That passes 5-0. Council members Pfeiffer and Ambrose are excused absences. We have no minutes to approve, so I'll move us right into recognitions and communications and turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Mormon for the recognition of the 100th anniversary of the Arvada Harvest Festival.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have representatives from the Harvest Festival with us this evening? No? Okay. I will proceed with this. This year, Arvada celebrates a remarkable milestone. 100 years of the Arvada Harvest Festival, one of the longest-running community traditions in Colorado. What began in 1925 is still a beloved annual event today, one that connects generations. The very first Harvest Festival was held not just to celebrate its agricultural roots, but also to celebrate the paving of Grandview Avenue from the bypass to Lamar Street. The organizers of the event, the Arvada Chamber of Commerce, planned a day full of festivities, a football game, visits from the governor of Colorado and the mayor of Denver, and even an airplane flyover to drop coupons for free pumpkin pies. But Colorado weather had other plans. Residents woke up to 2 feet of snow. The football game and flyover were canceled and the governor couldn't make it, but the mayor of Denver did, and the community pressed on. Neighbors grabbed shovels to clear the streets, and the pie coupons were tossed from the roof of the First National Bank building. Despite the challenges, the day was declared a great success after that snowy start. Organizers wisely moved the festival to September, and it quickly became Arvada's signature event of the year. While the city of Arvada has supported the festival in various ways over the years, the event itself has always been a community-led effort, organized by the Arvada Chamber of Commerce until 1938. When they began partnering with the Junior Chamber, or JCs. Since taking over coordination in 1989, the JCs have continued to lead the effort. The festival's success belongs to the people who have brought it to life year after year, from its humble beginnings, marking a harvest and a highway. The Arvada Harvest Festival and Parade has long reflected the spirit and resilience of the Arvada community, celebrating tradition, connection, and local pride. For details regarding the festival and parade, please reach out to the Harvest Festival Committee at arvadaharvestfestival.com. And we have the proclamation up here.
All right, and we will make sure that they get this. I'm sure they're busy planning for this coming weekend. Next, we have Councilmember Davis with our proclamation for National Co-Responder Week.
Thank you. I'm honored to read this proclamation and present it to the co-responders for the city of Arvada. I know I see those smiling faces over there. I'm very excited. So will you please step up? I have here that it's Julie, Ashley, and Julie? Twice? No. Jessica. Yashaka. Oh, ladies, you can stand back there, and I'll read this, and I'll come down and get a picture with you. All right. Whereas the city of Arvada is committed to enhancing public safety, community trust, and compassionate responses to individuals in crisis, and whereas co-responder programs pairing law enforcement officers with mental health professionals have proven to be highly effective in addressing behavioral health crises with care, expertise, and dignity. And whereas the Arvada Police Department's co-responder unit provides essential support in the field, offering de-escalation, crisis intervention, mental health assessment, and connection to resources that reduce unnecessary arrests and hospitalizations while improving the outcomes for individuals and family. And whereas National Co-Responder Week, observed September 14th through the 20th, 2025, highlights the innovative partnerships between law enforcement and behavioral health providers that are strengthening communities across the nation. And whereas the City of Arvada recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and compassion of its co-responder unit members who serve on the front lines of both public safety and mental health care. And whereas the Arvada City Council wishes to commend these efforts, which reflect the highest values of collaboration, service, and community well-being. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Arvada, Colorado, that September 14th through the 20th, 2025, be designated as National Co-Responder Week in the City of Arvada, and we encourage all residents to join in recognizing and expressing appreciation for the critical contributions of co-responder teams to the health, safety, and resilience of our community, dated the second day of September 2025. Yay! Would you like to speak?
Here we go. Yep.
I just want to say thank you so much for this recognition. We truly love our jobs. We love working with the PD, alongside our officers, detectives, all the units really. We're really proud to work here, very honored to work here. Love helping the community with anything and everything that we can. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Here, we'll have you guys post a quick photo. There. Here. Do you wanna come here? There's only a few of us, so. Lastly, I will turn it over to Councilmember Marriott for the proclamation for National Forensic Science Week.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to accept the proclamation for National Forensic? Okay, I'll bring you on Chief Ed Brady down to the podium. Whereas forensic science is critical to public safety, criminal investigations, and the pursuit of justice, and whereas the dedicated forensic professionals of the Arvada Police Department provide essential scientific analysis, objective evidence evaluation, and expert testimony that aid law enforcement, prosecutors, and the defense counsel in the fair administration of justice. And whereas advancements in forensic science have strengthened the ability to solve crimes, exonerate the innocent, and ensure accountability under the law. And whereas the work of forensic scientists and forensic service technicians requires precision, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the highest standards of professional excellence. And whereas the City of Arvada recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and compassion of its co-responder unit members who serve on the front lines of both public safety and mental health care. And whereas National Forensic Science Week, observed September 14th through 20th, 2025, provides an opportunity to recognize the vital contributions of forensic professionals and to raise awareness of the important role they play in keeping our community safe. And whereas the City of Arvada wishes to honor and thank the men and women of the Arvada Police Department's Crime Lab for their dedication, expertise, and service to the residents of Arvada. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Arvada, Colorado, that September 14th through 20th, 2025 be designated as National Forensic Science Week in the City of Arvada, and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and expressing appreciation for outstanding contributions of forensic professionals to our community and our criminal justice system. And it's dated the second day of September 2025, signed by the Mayor and all members of City Council, and I'll bring it down to you.
the previous one, our crime scene investigation unit is simply outstanding, and they have been for a number of years. They work regionally throughout the county, assisting other agencies. And we just lost our long-standing crime scene investigator, Matt Archuleta, to retirement. And while that's a big loss for us, we have wonderful people that he mentored and trained coming up through the ranks, so it's outstanding. I also want to give a shout out to Jess, Ashley, and Julie, our co-responder unit. They're fabulous. They're a very valued member of our family. And I think we've done an outstanding job here in the PD and the city in bringing co-responders in under the leadership of Chief Wick, and Commander Melanie Thornton really deserves a lot of credit. She's applied for the grant funding that pays for those positions. And so we've had those positions before most agencies have, and we've been truly blessed for their work, and they've made an impact in this city. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. Next, we have public comment for items not scheduled on the agenda. And quickly, Ms. Morris, we do have a suggested motion for later in the program that's not a public hearing. Is that allowed public comment, or should folks, if anybody wants to give public comment on that item, should they go at this time?
Okay, so are we talking about the motion related to 6800 Kilmer?
Correct.
So you can make a choice on this as the presiding officer. We could take comments at the at public comment, or you can decide to hear comments right before council votes. It's up to you. But since there's no requirement for a public hearing on the motion, it doesn't matter one way or the other.
Okay. I do see quite a few red shirts in the audience tonight, and I've made an educated guess. So I'm going to add a public comment portion into that motion for anybody if you choose to. There's absolutely no pressure. Right now, we don't have any signups, but I just wanted to create that option just in case. So with that, I will welcome up public comment. We have one sign up this evening, and that is Carol Napier. Come on up.
Good evening, Council. My name is Carol Napier, and I'm here on behalf of the world's children, including the children Arvada. Members of our Congress sent $360 million of Colorado taxpayer money to Israel. Meanwhile, we have 52,000 kids in Colorado that don't have health insurance, and that was before the Trump administration. We have 17,000 kids in Colorado students who don't have housing. And we have 172,000 Colorado children who go to bed hungry every night. And you can bet a good portion of those kids live in Arvada. Israel is not using that money for good. This week, the foremost scholars on genocide passed a resolution stating that Israel's policies and actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide in Article 3 of the United Nations Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. I can share with the council this article.
Yes, please give it to Ms. Rush.
I would appreciate your taking the time to read it. Genocide is the UN Convention drafted in the aftermath of the Holocaust defines genocide as acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. I have a friend who's about to go back to Gaza to provide medical care to the kids there. He's a pediatrician at UC Health. He also practiced as a nutritionist before he became a physician. I listened to his last talk. A couple of things stood out. A little kid asked him for an extra sticker, and he said, "What do you need the extra sticker for?" And she says, "Well, I'm going to go put it on the grave of my friend who was killed by the Israeli forces." He also told me recently that starvation is a horrible thing. Every organ in the child's body shuts down. and they are too weak even to cry, and then finally their heart stops. I ask you, council, don't hide behind this statement, that it is not a local issue. If you could go back in time and see the Jewish people being brought into the gas chambers, or the Cambodian people being shot in the face during the killing fields and during the Khmer Rouge, you would not say it is a local issue. Please divest.
Thank you.
Divest.
Thank you. Your time has expired, ma'am, but thank you. Are there any other individuals in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close the first public comment portion of this evening's agenda and move us into new business. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. However, there's been a request to break the first 2 of those off, and, well, you take away 2, that leaves 1. So I'm just going to take all 3 individually, one at a time. So the first item is R25-071, a resolution declaring the intent of the City of Arvada to use its best efforts to issue multifamily housing revenue bonds to 1 or more pipeline projects for the benefit of low and middle income families or persons, and authorizing carry forward allocation. Ms. Espinoza, I believe you have this item.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Arvada received a direct allocation of $7,946,818 of private activity bonds from the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the year 2025. The city accepted applications for its PAB allocation from private and nonprofit developers from January 31st, 2025 through February 24th, 2025. The city did not receive an application for the bonds. By September 15th, 2025, the City of Arvada must inform the Colorado Department of Local Affairs of the city's intended purpose of the bonds. The city has 3 options. We can issue the bonds for a specific project or assign the bonds to another issuer. We can carry forward the bonds for up to the next 3 years, or we can relinquish the bonds to DOLA's statewide balance. The Arvada team recommends that the city carry forward its 2025 PAB allocation into 2026. We do know that there are developers interested in the bonds. The carry forward of bonds will preserve the city's ability to assign the bonds in the following year and open a competitive application for both the 25 and 26 allocations. The city team recommends approval of this agenda item.
Thank you. I'll open it to Councilmember Marriott.
I have a question, Ms. Espinoza. One of the things that has been done with these private activity bond allocations in the past is to assign them to another entity like the Foothills Regional Housing or other housing authorities in the region. Why is that not one of the options here?
It is an option. We can certainly do that. We do ask that anyone interested, any entity interested in the bonds, complete an application requesting so, and we did not receive any bonds in 2020, or we didn't receive any applications in 2025. We would encourage Foothills to apply in 2026 when we open it again.
So the question I have then is, do they know that? Do they know that their only opportunity for us to assign those bonds to them would be for them to apply for those bonds just like any other private developer who wanted to develop something in Arvada?
Yes, I've had conversations with them in the past about applying for the bonds.
Okay. And when we didn't have any developers who applied for those private activity bonds, did we have any process by which we reached back out to Foothills Housing or any of the other housing authorities that do this in this region? Because I find it hard to believe that they all said, nope, we're good, we got all we need, and we couldn't use any more.
I would imagine that any housing authority would be interested in the bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Did we reach back out? No, we did not. We have policies and procedures for the private activity bonds, and that the policy states that we will open up a competitive application period for the bonds. And so we do follow those procedures in there. So if we wanted to open it back up, we would wait until the next application period, and we will have 2 years of bonds to award next year.
Thanks for answering the question.
Actually, I have a quick question, or Mayor Pro Tem Mormon? Quick question. So you mentioned we have 2 years of bonds stacked up. If we have a competitive process, do those inherently have to go to different projects, or can they be stacked onto one much more significant project?
They could be stacked.
Okay, good to know. All right, Councilmember Davis? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Mormon?
I will make the motion.
Yes, that's why.
I move that R 25-071, a resolution declaring the intent of the city of Arvada to use its best efforts to issue multifamily housing revenue bonds to one or more pipeline projects for the benefit of low and middle income families or persons, and authorizing carry forward allocation to be approved.
Councilmember Marriott?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a comment. So I'll be voting no on this, and here's why. I think that, for those who are just seeing this for the first time, this is just the city's authority or ability to allow someone to bond with tax-free municipal bonds for these amounts for housing projects. In my past conversations with Foothills Housing, they have actually bemoaned the fact that we no longer ever assign our bonds to them, which fair enough, we get to make that decision. But in this particular case, I think it's wasteful for us to lose the opportunity of this for a full year, because sounds like to me, or the possibility exists, that we don't have a better process by which developers can apply for the bonds and maybe even get preference for it. But if they don't, then have them assigned, whether it's to Foothills Regional Housing or any of the other regional housing authorities in this region. Housing's a regional issue. It's not an Arvada issue, and I'm relatively certain that there would be housing authorities who would desire to have these and would put them to good use. And by the way, we get more next year, so it's not like there's any benefit really to saving them up. And the problem here is that it's an opportunity cost. It's a missed opportunity. There's now a space of time by which these things are not utilized for the purpose by which they are authorized to the city for. So for that, I'm going to vote no. Obviously, I don't think it changes the conversation here, but I would much prefer to see us have a process by which we have a competitive process, but in the event that we have nobody who applies for them, that we do the second best thing we can do to put these things to use and put them to use immediately, and not wait and stack them up. So for that reason, I'll be voting no.
Ms. Espinoza, quickly, I have a follow-up question. Mr. Marriott brings up a good point. In this case, if we were to vote no and decline this, what would happen to the bonds?
We would relinquish the bonds back to DOLA. They would go back to the statewide balance, and there would be an open competitive process for the bonds. I will add that it normally does take a developer, they need multiple years of bonds in order to make their project work. So by us carrying forward and being able to stack the bonds, a developer would likely have to apply for multiple years anyway. So I don't see it as a missed opportunity. I do see what you're saying, Councilmember Marriott, but I don't see it as a missed opportunity here, because they would have to come back and apply again, most likely.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Davis?
I'm pressing all the buttons. Did you see that? I got all excited. Thank you for the explanation, and I will be voting yes. And the reason why is I know that there are probably development projects that are in the pipeline right now they might be in the planning process, or they're in the process of just doing public outreach and education with us and other members of the public. And because they are large projects, yes, you're right, they may need a little more money to get off the ground. And so stacking those that is an opportunity for them to move forward when they're ready, when they're to the point of utilizing these funds. So I don't think it's a missed opportunity. I think this is something that it'll play out nicely into the future, and we will get some housing here, much needed housing here in Arvada. So thank you for that.
All right. With that, that passes 4-1 with Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Ambrose being excused absences. Next, we have R25-072, a resolution authorizing participation in the Denver Regional Council of Governments Regional Housing Needs Assessment. Ms. Espinoza, this is also you.
Thank you, Mayor. The Sustainable Affordable Housing Assistance Act, or SB 24-174, mandates local governments to conduct and publish a housing needs assessment that conforms to methodologies developed by the Colorado Department of Local Affairs by December 31st, 2026. Local governments are exempt from the requirement to conduct a local housing needs assessment if they participate in a regional housing needs assessment that complies with the Department of Local Affairs methodology. In December 2024, the Denver Regional Council of Governments, or DRCOG, submitted its regional housing needs assessment to DOLA for review to ensure conformity with Senate Bill 24-174. The Colorado Department of Local Affairs approved the DRCOG Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which enables local governments in the DRCOG region to use the regional assessment for compliance with state law's housing needs assessment requirements. The City of Arvada completed a housing needs assessment shortly before the legislation was passed and would therefore need to revisit and amend small sections of the Arvada Housing Needs Assessment to meet all the requirements in the legislation's guidance. By agreeing to participate in the DRCOG Regional Needs Assessment, the city would meet the requirements. The city may then use its own housing needs assessment in addition to the DRCOG Housing Needs Assessment to develop the Arvada Housing Action Plan, which is also a requirement of the legislation. On August 19th, 2025, a study session was held with the Arvada City Council, where the housing team presented a summary and analysis of the DRCOG Regional Housing Needs Assessment. The council had an opportunity to provide comments that will be forwarded to DRCOG as part of DRCOG's 60-day public comment period. During the study session, council was informed that a resolution approving participation in the use of the Regional Housing Needs Assessment would be presented at the September 2nd City Council business meeting for consideration. The city team recommends approval of this agenda item.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? I see no lights. All right. There we go. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
I move that R25-072, a resolution authorizing participation in the Denver Regional Council of Governments Regional Housing Needs Assessment, be approved.
All right. Councilmember Davis, you were just a hair trigger faster. You were.
I saw Mr. Marriott press first. But
Nope. I can see the lights. You lit up
Okay.
first.
So I thank you for this, and I'm excited that we were ahead of the game from SB 124. So I want just to clarify, our participation in the DRCOG housing assessment really is just to fill some of the gaps that we didn't know that the legislature was going to request, correct?
That's correct.
And that, thus, we wouldn't have to conduct any of our own work, and it would save us time and money. It would save staff time and money if we could just plug and play with the numbers that DRCOG is suggesting.
That's correct.
And these are not hard numbers. These are just kind of estimates that we can use to develop our housing action plan. These aren't hard numbers that are written in stone anywhere.
We're not required to use the data if we don't want to. If we're not comfortable with a certain data point, we can go and do our own research if we do disagree with it. So we're not bound by the data. What I think is really important here is the housing action plan, which is the end result, which the data will be used to support the housing action plan, but we will heavily rely on the Arvada data in order to put that together.
Right, and thus we will align with SB 124's requirements for the action plan. And if we use the data, if we find that the data that DRCOG has put forth is good, genuine, and I'm losing my words, but we can go to court and say this is what we are doing. What's the word I'm looking for, Counselor? They're not debatable. They're defensible. Thank you. It's defensible data when we put it all together, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah, so I'm going to be voting no on this as well, and here's why. I disagree completely with the conclusions that are in the DRCOG housing assessment. And let me just give you a couple of those. They come up with an amount of housing to be distributed throughout the DRCOG region, and they make a small attempt at breaking the region into subregions. But the subregions are quite large, and it gives absolutely no ability to differentiate between communities. And I can tell you that the difference between Arvada and Westminster, while we sit next to each other, is great. The difference between Arvada and Wheat Ridge is also great. Heck, the difference between East Arvada and West Arvada is stark and great. But yet the DRCOG assessment doesn't allow or does not have things broken into regions of that size. They're very, very large regions. The other thing I disagree with is the data points that they tend to use, or that they use, all are from 2022. Well, in the housing market and in real estate, things have changed dramatically since 2022. And will definitely change over the next couple of years when the Arvada Housing Needs Assessment is done, or the housing strategy is done. And I think using bad data is a bad idea. Now, the stipulation has been, well, we don't have to use the data if we don't want to. If we disagree with a point of it, we can disagree with a point of it. Well, let me disagree with one of those points. One of the things DRCOG says for the whole region is we need 50,000 more units in the region by a certain time. 60% of those need to be subsidized. Well, I completely disagree with that. Housing markets solve those kinds of issues. And when you take a snapshot of a moment in time in a housing market that's quite large and dictate forward policy with that, I think you're making a bad decision. The other thing that it does is it doesn't differentiate things like suburban communities from urban communities, and has the effect of, if we accept this data and this conclusions contained within the DRCOG housing assessment, it makes every city within the metro area homogeneous when it comes to how much new housing and of what type should they accept. And I can tell you that our communities are all vastly different, and we should be deciding what our communities are. Now, I agree, I understand we're going to adopt our own housing strategy, but when you use data that's not accurate, that's inaccurate, you can come up with conclusions that are also not accurate. And so, you know, for a whole host of reasons here, I think it's bad for us to adopt this as our regulatory compliance. I think once we do, I don't think there's any way of getting out underneath from using at least some of this data, almost all of which I view as completely flawed or irrelevant for what the future of Arvada needs. And so for that reason, I'm an absolute strong no.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Davis, you want another bite at the apple?
As per the usual. So we are voting this evening to participate, not adopt anything, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and the data are an estimate of future housing needs. It's kind of looking into a crystal ball of this is how we're growing. We will have housing needs. I'm noticing in my neighborhood, there have been at least 8 young couples walking around with strollers and babies. So I know that the housing needs in Arvada will increase eventually if the children want to stay in Arvada and can afford to stay in Arvada. So I'm looking at the DRCOG information as just a recommendation, and we're just participating in the needs assessment so that we can keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on in the region and not the city specifically, because we do want to be an engaged and also attractive housing community as the city moves forward, because if we're not growing, we're dying. And I think it's important that we know that we have a lot of needs in this city, and we need to spread the wealth And we can't just have just current wealth paying for it, because as those of us pass on, I'm hoping people will move into our homes. So again, I'd see this data as an estimate, and we're participating. We're not adopting any numbers. I think that needs to be clear with the public. This is just a go-by. This is just a thumbs look at what's going on in the region. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you. I will echo some of the comments by Councilmember Davis. This is a regional baseline assessment. That's what it says right there, regional housing needs assessment. So it's regional data, and when we get to the point where we come up with our own plan, we'll be using very localized data to supplement that. And as a scientist, I can say that the more data you have, the better you can make your decisions off of. So I am in full support of us being able to make our own decisions based on this data and our own data for our city in moving forward. So thank you for the work on this.
Thank you.
I just quickly echo the comments of Councilmember Davis and Mayor Pro Tem Mormon. And with that, that passes 4-1 with Councilmember Marriott being a dissenting vote. Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Ambrose are excused absences. Finally, we have R25-073, a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to an agreement by and between the City of Arvada and Easy Excavating, Inc. for the 2024 water main replacement project number 24-WA-01 in an amount not to exceed $681,646, thereby increasing the total contract amount to an amount not to exceed $5,511,655. Mr. Wick, is Ms. Rhodes here? Ms. Rhodes, I see you there.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This resolution authorizes a change order for the 2024 water line replacement project. This project involves the replacement of existing asbestos cement AC water lines within the Sierra Vista neighborhood and increasing the scope to address the capacity concerns at Kipling and 78th Avenue and removing AC water line near West 82nd Avenue and Alcar Street. These water lines have reached the end of their useful life, and their replacement as part of one project is the least disruptive for the property owners and the community in the vicinity. So the Arvada team recommends that the City Council approve R25073.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon,
Thank you. I will make the motion.
please go ahead.
I move that R25-073, a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to an agreement by and between the City of Arvada and Easy Excavating, Inc. for the 2024 water main replacement project number 24-WA-01 in amount not to exceed $681,646.35, thereby increasing the total contract amount to an amount not to exceed $5,511,655.35 be approved.
Councilmember Davis?
I think that it's really, well, you know, I get excited about infrastructure in general, but I think it's important that the community knows that once upon a time, asbestos-lined concrete pipe was the building, the conveyance of choice, because the asbestos strengthened the concrete. And then as time went on, as the water chemistry changed, it started sloughing off that lining. And so I think, well, I know as a responsible infrastructure, we need to replace these things as they enter the end of their lives. Not saying that 60 years is old, it's old for infrastructure, young for us.
All right, with that, that passes 5-0. Councilmember Pfeiffer, Councilmember Ambrose being excused absences. Next, I'm going to open R25-074, a resolution authorizing an employment agreement between the City of Arvada and Alexa Visscher, appointing her a municipal court relief judge for 2025. Municipal Court Judge Catherine Kurtz.
And thank you, Mayor Simpson. I'll be jumping in here to provide an assistance. Just for the record, Patrick Kramerine with the City Attorney's Office. Good evening, Mayor Simpson and members of council. Before you is R25-074. As stated, it is a resolution authorizing an employment agreement between the City of Arvada and Ms. Alexa Visscher for the role of a Arvada municipal court relief judge. Pursuant to Arvada City Code ACC 5874, the City Council is entitled to appoint relief municipal court judges to substitute for the presiding judge as needed. ACC Section 5879 further provides that the relief judges will be appointed pursuant to the terms of an annual employment agreement, which is attached to your agenda item this evening. This resolution would authorize the appointment of Alexa Visscher under the terms of the attached agreement to serve as one of our municipal court relief judges. Should the council approve this resolution, which staff certainly encourages council to do so, there will be a brief swearing in after the vote. And as a personal moment, having worked with Ms. Visscher, I can, and a good friend of hers, I can certainly say we would welcome her aboard to be part of our wonderful city staff here at Arvada. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Wonderful. I'll open it to council questions or a motion. Councilmember Davis.
I'll make the motion if there's no questions.
I see no lights.
I move that R25074, a resolution authorizing an employment agreement between the City of Arvada and Alexa Visscher, appointing her as a municipal court relief judge for 2025, be approved.
Thank you very much. That passes 5-0 with Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. All right, I believe we have a swearing in now.
Good evening, Mayor Simpson and council members. I have with me Alexa Visscher. Also with her is her husband and some friends to be here for her swearing. And I'm going to allow her husband to robe her.
Aww. Yay.
And bit your arm. And it probably doesn't. There we go. All right. Please repeat after me and raise your right hand. I, Alexa Visscher, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the State of Colorado and the Charter and the laws and ordinances of the City of Arvada and will faithfully perform the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Congratulations and welcome to the team, Judge Visscher.
Thanks very much. Stand here and here. It looks like her signature is as messy as mine. Fair warning. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have no first reading this evening, so that takes us into the particular motion that I was speaking about earlier. I'm going to open a motion to waive the minimum interval requirement and accept an application to amend the comprehensive plan for the property located at 6800 Kilmer Street. And Ms. Morris, I know we have a clarification on this item.
We do. So when we were originally writing this report, or when I was originally titling it, I had a slight misunderstanding about what the applicant was requesting. So a motion to waive the minimum interval requirement would require that the applicant refile an application and go through a different process. What the applicant is requesting that council do is reopen the public hearing. So that's a slightly different process. I'll go through and explain that process for you. That way everyone understands what the procedure is we're looking at here. So if council wanted to reopen the public hearing on that application and reconsider their decision on the application for 6800 Kilmer, what they would need to do pursuant to City Council Rule of Procedure 4 subsection L is to make a motion, and it would have to be someone who was on the prevailing side of the previous vote, which would be either Councilmember Mormon, Mayor Simpson, or Councilmember Davis, that you would need to make that motion to set aside the council rules of procedure and then to vote to reconsider this particular matter. That would result in a public hearing being scheduled at a later date and time. The same notice requirements would apply to the application as applied to the original public hearing. So there would be plenty of opportunity down the road for public input and for the public to be heard on this matter before council makes a determination. Just as a point of clarification, council is not making a decision on the application tonight. All you're doing is deciding whether or not you want to reopen the public hearing to reconsider your decision based on new information that the applicant will present to you. One other factor to take into account, in order for this motion to pass, you have to have a supermajority. So since we have 5 members here today, you would need a vote of 4 of the 5 in order for the motion to pass.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morris. I will open it to council questions, action. Oh, correct, the public comment. Thank you. I will open public comment at this time. Thank you, guys. All right, with that, is there anyone in the audience who would like to give public comment on this item? And again, I want to be very clear, this is simply to reopen the hearing. This is not on the application itself. Please come forward, name and address for the public record. You'll have 3 minutes, and I do request that you keep comments directed to council, not to chambers or the developer or anyone who may be watching in TV land. You know the rules.
Sure.
Thank you.
Karen Gerbach, 6872 Juniper Court. Hearing the new information, I guess I would say that unless the developer's new application includes full mitigation of the land due to its history of being a landfill, I ask you not to approve this motion. Why go down a path of reopening the issue to see about changing the comp plan to match the LDC? But last year, both the Planning Commission and your body of justice here voted this application down 6-1 for compatibility reasons, and that hasn't changed. So we ask you not to approve this motion. And it's incompatibility. If it's not completely mitigated, nothing's changed. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment. Quickly, Ms. Morris, the new information, now I'm going to be totally honest with the crowd. I don't have it. No one on council has it, correct? That would be for what the hearing is for in order to be able to hear it.
Correct.
So I just wanted to elucidate that for everybody. We don't know what it is. So with that, Councilmember Davis, your light.
I'd like to make the motion.
I see no other lights. Please go ahead.
I move pursuant to City Council Rule of Procedure 9B that the requirements for reconsideration under City Council Rule of Procedure 4L be set aside, that the council rehear an application to amend the comprehensive plan for 6800 Kilmer Street, and that the matter be set for public hearing at a future date and time, and that the public hearing be noticed consistent with all applicable notice requirements for the initial council public hearing on the matter.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon, you wish to speak?
Yes, I do, Mayor. I will be voting no on this motion. I am not in favor of reopening the public hearing. I still hold firm to my previous vote in denying the request to change the comp plan because it does not comply with the surrounding neighborhoods.
Okay. Councilmember Marriott.
So I'll be voting yes on this motion. I think the decision made in the previous hearing was not well reasoned and could have used more information, which I believe we'll hear at the next hearing, and I believe it is appropriate for this to be reopened, and so I will absolutely be voting yes.
Councilmember Rupert.
Thank you. I'll be voting yes on this as well, inasmuch as I believe that we have conflicting regulations that apply to this piece of property. And I think when that occurs, I think we need to help an owner find the way to have a use for their property. Otherwise, it puts the city in a bad spot of prohibiting any sort of use being available to an owner. And so I think fairness requires that we hear whatever new information the owner has to present. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
I will be voting yes because I do believe that there may be additional information that we did not have in the past. So I would like to hear what that new information is for making the final.
Thank you. I was debating this one quite heavily myself. I feel like we made a decision. I wanted to see, as I said in that hearing, hopefully that they could go back and work to see some creative solutions. At the same time, I understand if there's new information, perhaps there's additional that we weren't able to consider at that time. And in addition, sometimes in this chair, you have to defer to your council, given that this is a supermajority status. I will be, and I have since everybody's shared their votes, we have a 3-1 so far. I will vote yes in order to be able to defer to my council to hear the hearing, but make no mistake, this does not commit us. We need to hear the new information. We've already heard this. We'll hear the new information. We'll make a decision. This is not a forward projection of how this may or may not go, because I do not know what will happen in the future. So I just want to make sure that's abundantly clear to everyone. So with that, I will call the vote. That passes 4-1, with Mayor Pro Tem Mormon being a dissenting vote and Councilmembers Pfeiffer and Ambrose being excused absences. Ms. Morris, do we know when that hearing date will be?
I don't know that we have a specific date yet, but I will look to Ms. Rush. Okay, so we do not have that date yet, but once we do have that date set, as I had indicated before, we will go through the notice process again. That way the public is well aware of when that public hearing will be.
Okay, thank you. And this is still considered a quasi-judicial matter?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, with that, thank you very much. I will close that particular item and move us into our public hearing for this evening's agenda, and that is R25-075, a resolution approving the proposed service plan for the Howard Ranch Metropolitan District. Our presenters are Ms. Megan McCall, Mr. Rob Smintana, and Brian Archer. Mr. Archer.
Thanks, Megan McCall, and I'll be starting off for staff. The resolution before you is for approval of a proposed service plan for the proposed Howard Ranch Metropolitan District. The proposed district is located along the south side of West 64th Avenue and the north side of Hyatt Lake. At build-out, it's anticipated to consist of 54 residential units. An overview of a few key details of the service plan includes a debt issuance cap of $3,600,000, a debt term limit of 40 years, a debt mill levy cap at 50 mills, an operating mill levy cap at 10 mills. It also includes an Arvada Regional Improvements mill levy, which is as set forth in the code and the city's model service plan. More specifically, 1 mill beginning in the first year of imposition of a debt service mill levy and then 5 mills beginning in the 21st year after the ARI mill levy is imposed through the date of repayment of the district's issued debt, and then an additional 10 years, a mill levy in an amount equal to the average debt service mill levy imposed by the district in the 10 years prior to the repayment of the debt. It also has transparency requirements in line with the requirements of state statute and the city's model service plan for recorded notice, and it also has a requirement for installation of a sign within the district's boundaries notifying prospective purchasers that the property is located within a metropolitan district and providing information regarding the district's website. City Council's criteria for reviewing service plan applications is set out in Section 9132 of the code. There are 4 mandatory criteria elements and 5 discretionary criteria factors, which I'm happy to go over in more detail if needed. I do have one clarification from the staff report for council's consideration. Staff recommends unconditional approval of the service plan itself with 2 future requirements for the district, if formed, which are 1, that the district comply with subsection 9121I of the city code regarding transparency requirements, and 2, that the intergovernmental agreement, which is required by the service plan between the district and the city, require that the sign described in Article 11 of the service plan, which I also just went over, notifying prospective purchasers of the property that it's located within in a metropolitan district, be a minimum of 2 feet by 4 feet in size and located in the northern intersection of Howell Street and West 61st Circle. I do have a revised motion to this effect for council to consider, as well as a revised resolution when the time comes and if needed. City staff is available to answer questions that council may have. Specifically, Rachel and myself are here for your legal questions, Rob Smetana for development-related questions, and Brian Archer is available for questions related to the district's proposed financial plan. We also have representatives for the applicant who would like to present to council regarding the proposed service plan.
Thank you. If anyone presenting on this item or who would like to speak on this item could raise their right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. Invite the applicant up to go ahead and make their presentation.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Matt Ruland with Kager Law. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Glory Schmidt from my office, along with Nathan Adams and Paul Coe, who are with the developer, Red T Homes, developer of Howard Ranch. First off, I'd really like to thank staff and acknowledge we've worked with them for quite some time now, well over a year, if not longer, on our plans to do a metropolitan district and this service plan. I think what we have before you tonight is a service plan that will serve the city well, serve the future homeowners well as the development, and provide financing that is essential for build out of the project. Do I have a clicker? Here we go. There we go. Well, I'm going to do my best not to repeat too much of what is in your staff report. Staff has done a good job of encapsulating what we are asking for in the report, and Megan did a good job of doing the general overview of our community and of what we're asking for in the service plan. With that being said, there are going to be a few things I'm going to try to highlight that might be repetitive from the staff report, but I think it's important to make sure it gets in front of council, and then you guys have any questions, we're here for you. So first, the staff report, and Megan did a good job of explaining what this development is. It is a 54-home unit. It's intended to be built at LED gold standard or higher, and the way we're going to do that is, among other things, have renewable energy, have water-saving landscaping and fixtures. The intent is to make this a community that can be a model for future development within Arvada. This slide is intended to make it clear to the council how much work Red T Homes has done with regard to this development. There's been an extensive amount of outreach to the community. There's been 2 meetings with HOAs. There's been 5 town hall meetings and numerous meetings with a number of local residents. In addition, there's been a website that has specific information regarding Howard Ranch, along with the ability to ask questions and glean information so the community and neighboring communities are aware of what is going on. Red T has worked with the city. It had 7 different revisions to the development plan, and that has since been approved. And now we're here tonight to try to get the service plan approved so we can have a district which can help fund a portion of the public improvements to make this community what it's intended to be. So I won't go into too much detail. I know you had a work session on metropolitan districts generally and your service plan, but I do want to provide some very broad oversight or overview of what a district is and what specifically we're going to be doing in Howard Ranch. So districts generally have the power to finance, construct, repair, replace public improvements. Those public improvements can be water, sewer, roads, park and rec, similar to what a city has, municipal type of improvements. Along with this, under statute, districts generally have the power of covenant enforcement. Whether or not you use it or not, that power is often provided, along with the ability to use eminent domain. There are some limitations that I'll talk to in your service plan on that, but generally under statute it's provided for, as well as the ability to impose taxes, fees, and charges. So in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, there were a handful of districts that had some struggles with paying their debt. There was a downturn in the economy, building slowed down. I'm Italian, sorry, I speak with my hands. Building slowed down, and communities were not built out as they were projected to. So mill levies had to be increased to unsustainable amounts in order to pay off the debt. So since the late 80s, early 90s, statutes have been passed and have evolved, as well as service plans and how those are done have evolved. Back in the 80s and early 90s, there were no mill levy caps. So now statute has been enforced or passed to have certain requirements on how districts are able to issue debt. And that, along with service plan debt mill levy caps, have provided some protections to the future homeowners. It also shifts the burden and the risk from the homeowners onto the bond investors. So now when you issue debt, so long as you impose that 50 mils that this service plan authorizes, you are not in violation of the debt covenants, and you cannot be. As long as you impose 50 mils, at the end of 40 years, if there's outstanding debt, it is forgiven. That shifts, once again, the burden over to the investor. Back in the 80s and 90s, you had to raise your mill levies and keep on paying until it was paid off. So that's a significant change in the last handful of decades. Some additional transparencies that we have for districts. So just like local government, like Arvada, districts are local governments. We are subject to open records laws, open meeting laws. We must have open meetings, have minutes, regular elections, which occur every other May. Must pass budgets and audits. And importantly, we have a bunch of transparency that we must adhere to. One of those is an annual transparency notice. So what that is, it's a notice that gets presented to the community. It provides information on the mill levies that are being imposed, when the next election is, and how to get involved if you want to run for the board, who to contact if you have questions about the district. In addition, districts that have residents must have an annual town hall meeting. This is provided for under statute, which means annually we must mail out notice or email notice to all the eligible electors within the district and have a meeting, and at that meeting no decisions can be made, no determinations can happen. The whole purpose of the meeting is for residents to come and ask questions, for the district to present status of public improvements that are being built, give a review of outstanding debt, and go over the financials, and then take questions from the community. Once again, no determinations are made. The intent of that meeting is just to provide information if residents are interested. In addition, there's some recording notices that must happen pursuant to statute, which are in addition to the notices that are required under your service plan. And lastly, there's an annual report that is required under statute, which is also required under your service plan. So in addition to statute, your service plan requires some additional transparency. We want to make sure people know they're in a district so they can make an open-minded decision and understand the impacts of being in a district before they purchase a home. So first, we have to record a separate notice. This is Exhibit E to the service plan. That notice has information about your mill levies and then has a chart that shows what the implications financially of being within this district versus if you were not in the district and what the difference in taxes would be. So that is recorded against property, so when people get their title work, that will be there. In addition, as Megan has said, we agreed to install signage in the district, which will have information stating that you are within a district. So you will know you're in a district if you live there or if you're traveling through or you're looking to buy a home, and there'll be information on how to get to the district's website. And the district website is required under statute to contain multitudes of documents. So it's disclosure on the service plan, what your mill levies are, what your budgets are, minutes, things like that, so community and prospective homeowners can understand what's going on with the district. And lastly, while it's not under the purview of the districts, we did mention this in the service plan because it is important as a disclosure. Under statute, there's now required that disclosures be made to prospective buyers about the district. It used to be a burden only of home builders to their initial buyer. And in this last legislative session, they have transferred that and grown that. So all sellers must provide notice of being within a district, and it provides information about, once again, the mill levies and what those implications will mean from real life in the implications of dollars and cents for you if you buy a home. And that must be given to you before you sign your purchase and sale agreement. Once again, intended to provide notice to homeowners or prospective buyers before they buy a home that they're within a district. Additional service plan protections. So as mentioned, we do have a 50 mil levy cap for debt. We have 10 mil cap for operations. There's a maximum mill levy imposition term of 40 years. As I said earlier, at the end of 40 years, whatever has not been paid back is deemed satisfied. Prior to issuing any privately placed debt, the district must obtain a certification of an external financial advisor. This is an expert in the field to look at the terms of the debt and certify that they are reasonable for the terms and the nature of the bonds. We're not allowed to impose fees on end users for capital purposes. Any capital fees that would be pledged towards bonds or payment of capital improvements would have to be paid by the home builders. That is not the intent here, but in any case, we cannot impose such fees on end users. If there's ever an intent to impose mill levy or fees for operations, that we must get a certification of a third party who is an expert in the fee area to provide reasonableness of those fees. So one thing we want to bring up here is that we are doing a single district structure. There's many ways that developers process their developments and see how a metropolitan district can be used. There's a multiple district structure, which has been used elsewhere, and that has evolved over time, where there used to be the service district, which was controlled by the developer long-term, and then finance districts, which where the homes would be, and there'd be intergovernmental agreements between them. Those have fallen out of favor for the most part around the state. Now there's still multiple district structures, but they're different, and like many of them are set up where that service district will ultimately have homeowners in it as well. For our situation, we made for a number of reasons, we've determined one district is how we should do this. Mostly because the size of the district. It is not a large district. So there's no need for multiple districts, and the developer has no intent to have a service district to maintain control of it. Our intent is to transfer control of the district to homeowners as soon as there's interested homeowners to serve on the boards, which would happen throughout the process of regular elections, happen every 2 years, and homeowners can get on the boards at those times. One of the other benefits of this is its single district structure is it's centralized, meaning there's not layers of bureaucracy to go through. You're not on one board and then trying to talk to another board about making determinations on how to finance your debt or refinance your debt going forward. So I won't go into this in too depth because I'm sure you went through it ad nauseum in your work session, but once again, generally, under the service plan, the district has all the powers under Title 32 for the Special District Act, except for limited under the service plan, meaning we can finance and build and construct and repair public improvements. There will be an intergovernmental agreement with the city, which details any operations and maintenance. Things like the signage will be part of that IGA, and that also allows council to enforce the service plan against us if for somehow we are materially not following it. Some of the limitations that are within the service plan. We are not authorized to design or finance or operate and maintain fire protection, television, transition facilities. Interesting enough, we're not allowed to finance, operate, or maintain a golf course. And there are some limitations and rules on how we can include and exclude property within and without the district boundaries. And I was going to come back to this one, eminent domain. We have the power of eminent domain, but we cannot enforce or use that power without the consent of city council before using it. As mentioned by Megan earlier, our estimated costs of public improvements are a little over $5.3 million. We are seeking $3.6 million in debt authorization, which means under any scenario, a significant portion will have to be funded through the developer. So any amounts that are not able to be funded through the issuance of bonds by the district will be covered in an obligation of the developer. So formation of this district, the development approvals for this development have been approved. This district is essential to help fund a portion of those public improvements to see this development get built as anticipated. Myself, Gloria, Nathan, and Paul are here if you have any questions or you need any further information from us. Otherwise, I'll just thank you for your time once again. Thank you, Rachel and Megan, for all of your efforts. We really do appreciate working with you.
Thank you very much. I will now open the public comment portion of the hearing, and I'll just go in the order in which I received them. And first, I have Ann Schweitzer.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Ann Schweitzer. I live at 14615 West 62nd Place. And up to a few days ago, we hadn't heard that this neighborhood very close to our neighborhood. Sorry, let me back up and say that I'm a past HOA president, current HOA board member for Wildflower Ponds, the neighborhood immediately adjacent across the canal to the Red Tea development, Howard Ranch. As I was researching this concept today, having been involved in our HOA for many, many years now, I'm kind of curious as to why you would need a special district versus an HOA organization. So that is one of my thoughts as I was researching the special district issue. If the developer votes to de-Bruce at the outset, that means that they keep all the money. And any money over any tax limitations enforced by the state, as I'm sure you all know. And I really have a big question about why. Just why this is needed versus that. It talks about sanitation and street improvements, but I also wonder, aren't these handled by other government entities? And then I have a question about what eminent domain would be for. And to conclude, I just would ask the City Council be very wary in issuing a special district like this without fully understanding why. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Mike Schweitzer.
Good evening, Mayor Simpson, City Council. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Mike Schweitzer, live at 14615 West 62nd Place with Ann. I'll further what Ann said. I question why this is necessary for such a small development. 52 homes, is it 52 or 54? 52 homes, and they need a metropolitan district to maintain their infrastructure. I think that my conjecture is that they found that in the time it's taken from when they proposed this development several years ago to now, finances have changed, the market has changed, and I question why they need to do this. I also have a issue of trust with Red Tea. They agreed in this council meeting several years ago, and they were suggested by then Mayor Williams to involve wildflower ponds and to maintain the integrity. One of the things they agreed to was to keep healthy, non-invasive trees on the property. I didn't bring my phone up to show you the pictures, but all the trees are gone. The entire development has been leveled and graded. It's all dirt now, and all the trees on that property are gone. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know why such a small neighborhood needs to be a metropolitan district, especially considering the larger developments of wildflower ponds to the east and a large development of higher-end homes to the west. I think there's issues there, and I question the integrity about why they're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Mike Rawlick.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thanks for having me again. My name is Mike Rawlick, 18735 West 59 Drive, Golden, Colorado, 80403 on behalf of Ralston Valley Coalition. Metro districts in general, or just realize you are creating a new governmental entity tonight. How much government do we actually need? How many elections do we need? General questions about it, though. Why 40 years and not 30? Right now, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 38. If that person decides to stay there, they're 78, well past normal retirement age, and they'll have to pay any of the bond debt to that time. If they retire at 60, they're going to be 18 years on some form of fixed income trying to pay. Could a refunding clause be considered? We understand the Fed funds rate right now is 4.25 to 4.5%. Jerome Powell's probably be gone in March or maybe earlier. Things will be cut. Can these future rate cuts be passed on to the homeowners? Say, is there something where you could say, if the Fed funds rate goes to 3.25%, that we could do a refunding clause, and then again 2.25, do another refunding clause, make sure folks get their money. Talking about eminent domain, CRS 32-1004, number 4, actually gives dominant eminent domain to a metro district, which means it would beat Arvada's eminent domain. And the limitation in number 10 on the 67-page agreement, there's a section that's, I'll just close my phone here, that's really concerning. It says, and I don't quite understand this, maybe there's some clarification. In the event the limit on the district's ability to exercise the power of eminent domain inhibits the district's ability to issue debt, or will cause the interest on any debt issued by the district to be included on the gross income for federal income tax purposes, and the district shall have obtained the written opinion of the bond council, which is not here, with respect to the foregoing, the limit set forth in the intergovernmental agreement on the district's ability to exercise the power eminent domain shall be of no further force. So there is a way for them to get around their eminent domain. So you might want to look at number 10 on that 67-page agreement there. And then just the whole question of funding the infrastructure via upfront costs in your mortgage versus not. $3.6 million divided by 54 homes. I know they're of different sizes, $66,000 per home. I ran a $500,000 mortgage and a $566,000 mortgage at 6.5%. You're with the metro districts of, say, maybe $200 a month. You're looking at $2,906 versus $2,906 versus, gosh, I don't even know anymore. Hold on a second. If the rate dropped to 5, we'd be looking at, I had all these scribbles here, you'd be looking at $2,150 plus the 200, which would be $2,350 versus $2,430 if you had refinanced your own. And it drops further at 4% as well. So the question there is, in the instance of less government, more freedom, if I was to pay for my costs up front, I could then control the rate that I want to refi as well. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Finally, we have Susan C. Okay, she has deferred her time. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to speak on this topic at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion and open it to council questions.
Your Honor, do you want to give a little bit of rebuttal time to the applicant? I thought it might help, it might assist council with some of the questions they might have.
Absolutely, because I know I had a couple. So please, if you have any clarifications you would like to share.
I'd rather hear if council has questions on them, whether instead of going tit for tat, but I will tell you, HOAs and districts are different. HOAs are typically for covenant enforcement, and they have limited fundraising abilities. The district's main purpose for our purposes is to help fund infrastructure. So yes, the water, the sewer, the roads, that infrastructure will go elsewhere, and another entity will own and maintain it. But that entity will not finance the construction of it, and that's a big portion of what this district is for, is to finance a portion of that public improvements. In terms of eminent domain, I will say we have no intention of using eminent domain, and if we do have to come back to you, the language that is in your service plan that's in your model service plan. If we'd like to have a fulsome discussion over it, happy to have it, but we did not add that as a gotcha and an intent to use it in any other way. Here for questions.
So I would actually like you to quickly speak about the debt financing, because this is a smaller amount. This is a smaller number of units. How long do you anticipate it would take to pay this off? Do you intend to go the whole 30 years?
The intent, and so when municipal bonds are issued, they are typically issued for a 30-year term. So yes, that is how we are projecting it now, that they would be issued as a 30-year term. Once again, under your service plan, there's a 40-year limitation, and the reason for that typically is because after most municipal bonds, when they're issued, have a call protection time. So 5 or 7 or 10 years before you can refund them at all. Until then, there's penalties. So typically what happens is we issue debt, and then after the community is completely built out, the community has homeowners on the board, they can consider refinancing it. And then if they want to, they can extend the payment, or they can do as many of us do when we refinance the debt and refinance it to pay it off at that original 30 years as well. But it gives flexibility.
So the owners will have the ability to refinance the debt and lower?
Most definitely.
Okay, and then do they have the ability to pay it off early?
Yes, and it does happen quite often, especially for better or worse, when we have increased assessed values that outpace what is anticipated and projected. Many districts have been able to refinance, lower their mill levies, and pay it off quicker.
Okay. And you noted penalties if they went to reissue the debt. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
But that's a protection for the investors. So when an investor gives $1 million to a project, they want to make sure that they don't go through that process, and then a year later, they just get totally refunded and they don't see any of the return. So typically, before they will loan it, they give a protection that says, you cannot pay this off until a certain time. And this is market-driven. This is not district-driven, and this is not district-specific. It's many municipal bonds. And so there's protections. That's the protection that the bond holder has to make sure they have some amount of time where there will a repayment period.
There are additional questions from council? Councilmember Marriott.
I have a couple questions, potentially for our legal team. So this question of eminent domain came up. It's a new one for me for metro districts, although I assume this is probably common. My assumption would be that the district would only have the ability to perform eminent domain on property that's contained within the district. And that could be either an easement or potentially fee simple, I guess. Am I correct about that?
So the service plan doesn't specifically limit it just to within the district's boundaries. However, the district would need to come to the city for consent for any eminent domain that it chooses to exercise in the future, and should that be something that the city wouldn't want to approve, that would be within their purview. And I might defer to Mr. Ruland if he has anything additional just in terms of industry specific to how districts might exercise their eminent domain, even if this particular district isn't anticipating it.
Yeah, and I can let you know, generally it is not just within the boundaries. If it's needed, let's say we're building a pipeline and we had to go across some property that's outside the district to connect to the city's infrastructure, and there's no other feasible way, we'd have to prove. Once again, we wouldn't be able to just, or a district generally, wouldn't be able to just say, we'd like to put our pipe here. You have to prove that it's needed and there's no feasible alternative. And if that was proven, then you could do so outside of your boundaries in order to build the infrastructure. Under the service plan, we still have to come to you, though, to get consent.
Right, okay. In this particular development, is there, I mean, I'm sure they're far enough along on utility plans and things like that. Is there any anticipated need to use this?
I'm unaware of any. Are you guys aware? Unaware of any? No.
Come on up and tell
Please
us
come
in
into the mic, introduce yourself as well, please. Name and address.
Nathan Adams, 4260 East Evans Avenue, Denver, Colorado 80222. What I was trying to say there is that there's one place that we do go off-site for utilities. We connect into gas line at Lakes at Westwood, and there's already an easement, and we've already negotiated all of that. It's actually in our good neighbor agreement with Lakes at Westwood.
Okay, so the short answer is no. You have no anticipation to need this for anything you need as to your knowledge to construct at this point.
That's correct. I give you the one example of the only place that we go off-site, and we don't have any need for eminent domain.
Okay, great, thank you. Other question I have is with the signage requirement. Have we looked at how that works within our sign code, and then will this development be constrained on a neighborhood monument sign or anything like that? And are they required to have a monument sign, or are they not allowed to? I mean, I would like some clarity around that.
They could have a neighborhood monument sign. I don't know that one we've had a permitted, requested yet, but they are allowed one under the code. This sign that's required would not preclude them from having a neighborhood identification sign, and it wouldn't impact the square footage if this is being required for a governmental purpose.
Okay, so how does this sign, this 2 foot by 4 foot, which seems kind of like a random number pulled out, how does that compare to other type of signage that might be, required by us for, I don't know, I can picture no parking signs, I can picture, crosswalk signs, I picture all kinds of signs, but this seems very different, and, do we have any kind of rules or regulations around it, and how does that fit in?
The number was chosen because that's the size of signs we required along the Jefferson Parkway right-of-way through Leiden and Candelas. So it's similar in that nature as a governmental sign. I don't know that I can tell you exactly how it compares to other governmental signs, but that's where that number came from.
Right. Okay. And we have that listed as a condition on that? Is that?
So it would be kind of a condition. This is what I wanted to clarify is that city council has the ability under the code to unconditionally approve a service plan, conditionally approve it, or disapprove it. If city council conditionally approves the service plan itself, it kind of snowballs into a requirement that they come back with a revised service plan, that we continue the hearing. And so that is not what's being proposed in that respect. So not a conditional approval of the service plan. The resolution would be an unconditional approval of the service plan, and city council would be giving two requirements upon the applicant and the proposed district should it be formed. And the sign requirement would be specific to the intergovernmental agreement, because as of right now, there is no district, so we have no one to enter an intergovernmental agreement with. So at that point in time, that's where that would be put forth as a requirement, but it would be established by city council as a requirement tonight, should city council wish to take that recommendation.
Let me ask another question. Have we done this before, where we've required signage at the entrance to a metro district?
I don't believe that we have. This has been a relatively new topic that we've discussed with council. It arose out of previous conversations and complaints that council has received from residents in various other metro districts about whether or not those residents were aware that they were purchasing property in a metro district. So it seemed important to council, and the applicant was more than happy to do a little bit of extra notice and create some signage and things like that, just to ensure that residents who purchase into the neighborhood are fully aware that there is a metro district and that there would be tax implications for their purchase.
But this is above and beyond all the other disclosures that are required, like, you know, purchase sale agreement disclosures and closing disclosures and.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Rupert.
With regard to this new sign requirement, so this new sign becomes a permanent fixture to that entrance to the neighborhood, or does it go away once build out and sell out?
The service plan isn't specific as to the longevity of the sign. It would, for all intents and purposes, that would really be a policy call probably for city council as to how long you want that to be into effect. On the one hand, you are going to constantly have residents coming into the district, whether they're buying as first-time end users, the first-time home buyers from the builder, or whether they're buying from a resident who's been there for a number of years. Presumably, once the district dissolves, that is, once it has met its purpose, it would not have to have, it would not, there's not a requirement for dissolution, but under statute, districts are able to dissolve once they have satisfied all of their bonds, and once they have, they don't have any more obligations, they can, whatever operations and maintenance are being paid for from other sources, they could dissolve. So presumably there would be no need for a sign at that point in time, but it's not specified in the service plan as to how long it needs to be there.
Okay, so I guess my suggestion is, if this is the first time we're using this and we're requiring a sign to be posted, and it's going to be a 30-year sign, we probably ought to put a little thought into what the appearance of the signage is and how it's going to be maintained, how it's going to affect the neighborhood identification sign. I mean, you know, these things start looking blighted after a relatively short time. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. On the slide that is numbered 5, the Howard Ranch Metropolitan District Service Plan Protections, the last bullet, statutory mandated disclosure by all sellers to property purchasers to ensure every buyer understands, 1, the district's purpose and existence, and 2, the associated financial obligations before purchasing a home. Is that something that's specific to Red Tea and Howard Ranch, or is that something that all metro districts do with their realtors.
So that is a relatively new statewide statutory requirement. And it used to be only a home builder like Red T, when they sold to the first initial buyer, had to give that disclosure. And it's been around, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. And it's typically a 2 or 3 page document that is part of their seller package when they have a PSA, and you sign it saying I've received it, and it has a chart in the back saying, typically it says for a $500,000 home, 600, 700. I'm sticking in my hands.
No, I love it.
And it goes through those details. Statute was changed this last year, which now enlarged the use of it, and now any seller. So when you sell your home, part of the seller package will be this disclosure.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't just specific to this builder and this development. I do have friends that are realtors, and they make this disclosure for homes all the time. So I want to make sure that we're not being overly onerous on this development, having to have a sign that says you're entering a metro district for 30 years, having that sign up for 30 years, when the disclosure is made to buyers who are buying homes into this development.
Ms. Morris, would it be possible for us to create some kind of conditions around this sign? I tend to agree. I think a 30-year sign might be, like, unless it is welcome to blank and then Metropolitan District in the subletters, like something like that. An entryway sign is a different conversation than, for instance, the signs we have posted for the right-of-way for the Jefferson Parkway, which are disclosure of a location sign. So what exactly are the parameters around this, and can we set some?
You can absolutely set some. So the way that we have it set up now, we changed the motion language a little bit just to make clear that we are going to incorporate any signage requirements in the IGA once the Metro District is actually established and we have an entity that we can enter into that agreement with. So we would have entered into the IGA anyway. We'll just wrap this up in that part. If you want to give us some direction on what you want that signage requirement to look like, whether that's timing, whether that's the materials, things like that, we can obviously take some of that direction from you now. You will have the IGA in front of you to approve at a later date. So that will also be something, you'll have another shot to talk about those requirements at that time as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Davis.
If there isn't further discussion, I can make the motion.
Please.
I move that R 25-075, a resolution approving the proposed service plan for the Howard Ranch Metropolitan District, be approved, and that the city will require, 1, that once formed, the Howard Ranch Metropolitan District comply with Section 91-21(1) of the City Code regarding transparency requirements, and 2, that the intergovernmental agreement required by the service plan between the district and the city require that a sign described in Article 11 of the service plan notifying prospective purchasers that the property is located within a metropolitan district shall be a minimum of 2 feet by 4 feet in size and located at the northern intersection of Howell Street and West 61st Circle.
Thank you. Council? Councilmember Marriott, you wish to speak?
I do. I'd like to propose a friendly amendment for Ms. Davis's motion. I'd like to add to the sign requirement, keep it all the same, but add for a term of 2 years or until all units are sold. And the logic behind this is, I agree with Mr. Rupert 100% that placing a sign for 30 years comes with it all kinds of considerations. I also would like to think of the future residents of Howard Ranch who probably don't want a sign like that forever in their at the entrance to their location. It would be unsightly, and it would serve 100% of its purpose if it were there until all units are sold, which certainly ought to happen within the first 2 years. And I mean, if you want to propose a different timeline, I'm fine with that. Or even take the time off completely and say until all units are sold, and then that relieves any discussion about maintenance of a sign or upkeep or replacement schedule or any of the other things that might be required. And I think it yields the right answer because the the future residents won't have to deal with a sign like this, but any prospective buyer would get all the notice that the sign would provide, and then they don't need to continually receive that notice for 10 or 20 years as they enter and exit their neighborhood.
I accept that friendly amendment. I will ask the attorneys, where do I insert that?
So if you accept that amendment, then the motion will be deemed to include it. And so what council is now voting on is the motion read into the record by Councilmember Davis, including the amendment expressed by Councilmember Marriott, which would include that time limitation, that 2 years or until, and remind me, Councilmember Marriott, 2 years or until all
units
homes
are
have been
sold.
sold? Yeah. So that would be the motion that council will now be voting on. That's the motion on the table.
Ms. Morris, for a point of clarity, Mr. Marriott, you discussed two different timelines. One was 2 years until all were sold, or until all were sold. Which would you prefer?
I prefer 2 years or until all units are sold, whichever is longer.
Thank you.
Whichever happens first. Okay, whichever's shorter.
So with that, we've accepted the friendly amendment. That is the motion on the table. That passes 5-0 with Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Ambrose being excused absences. I will close this evening's public hearings and open it to the 5-minute public comment limit. I have no signups. Is there anyone in chambers? Mr. Rollick.
Once again, Mayor and Council, on behalf of Rosslyn Valley Coalition, just like to reiterate our express wish for sensible setbacks for the psilocybin industry. We know that you're up against the state pressure. We did do some more research. Colorado Springs went for the full mile, so Parker's not the outlier anymore, and Breckenridge also defined all of the different types of businesses to be included in that setback, including production and testing facilities. So this is definitely becoming a bipartisan thing. It's not just Parker and Colorado Springs, but now we're seeing Breckenridge and other cities moving into this as well, and towns, I should say, because Breckenridge is a town. So, and again, just forward-looking as far as this whole thing goes, some other thoughts would be no GMO and the non-synthetic only, because they have that synthetic variety now that's grown in E. coli vats, and once again, E. coli being a bacteria, you're now adding ampicillin and another substrate which actually has a material safety data sheet. That means it's some form of hazmat. So you've got 3 different nasty substances trying to grow this pure form of crystalline polymorph psilocybin. This is not a knock on psilocybin as far as what it might do for veterans and others with PTSD. It's just a general protection for all citizens involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment and open it to reports from the City Council. Mayor Pro Tem Moorman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to comment on Vesta Miller's memorial service on Saturday. Several of us got to attend at Arvada United Methodist Church. I attend there, and she was a member of the church, and of course a very loved and dear member of our community, and so I thought it was a very wonderful service, and also want to thank you for the comments that you shared as mayor representing our city. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
I attended Randy's coffee talk, and it was very lively. I'd like to thank Commander Ammon for attending with us as well and sharing some crime statistics with us, and just letting us know generally what's going on in District 1, and it was a lot of fun, actually.
All right. I see no additional lights. I will note I had a busy week in addition to former Mayor Vesta Miller's funeral. We also had the grand opening of Quantum Commons, at least the original, the administrative building, which is fantastic. That is, appreciate all the team's hard work. I know technically it's in unincorporated Jefferson County, but we have been involved every step of the way. That is an exciting project that will lead to some big changes into our future, and that's exciting. In addition, we had the groundbreaking of Griffith Station. In particular, I want to commend Ms. Espinoza and her team. I know that was a lot of work over the past 6 years. It is a Habitat for Humanity, 20 homes for Arvadans, 3 to 4 bedrooms. It's going to be a pretty special project in District 3. And then Odyssey Beer Works officially kicked off Oktoberfest. So it was a busy week. We've got more coming up. Oh, and Arvada High School celebrated its 125th anniversary. It was absolutely an amazing event with Superintendent Dorland, Principal Freeze, and others. And it was really amazing to see all these different generations come out. And I thank Councilmember Davis for also coming out with me to that. So with that, Mr. Wick, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things for the council. First, tomorrow at 1:30, we will have our quarterly faith leaders meeting at United Methodist Church, and so we're looking forward to that meeting. Thursday, there's the AIDA Business Appreciation Breakfast that I think several of you are attending. And then next Tuesday at 4 p.m., we have a study session related to legislative update on accessory dwelling units. And the 6 p.m. workshop is going to be a presentation from the Metro Water Recovery CEO, which is always a really fascinating presentation, and we look forward to that. Thank you.
Ms. Morris?
Nothing for me, Your Honor.
All right, we stand adjourned.